All right, the first thing that you're going to do is enter the equation on your TI89. So if you enter the equation, in your Y editor, okay, so if you go to the Y editor, just type it right in. What this allows you to do is it allows you to view the graph of your equation, and from the graph window, you can actually find the location of the vertex. Okay, so if you can find the vertex, which is HK, okay, so if we go to our graphing window, actually let me make sure my window settings are good. All right, so we go to our graphing window. So here's our equation. We can see exactly where the vertex is located. So if we want to find what those coordinates are, it's a minimum. So we hit F5, that math tab, and choose minimum. Pick a point that we know is to the left of this minimum point. So I can see right here that 0 is, so I'm just going to enter 0. There's my lower bound. My upper bound has to be some point to the right of this. And again, since I'm using my default settings of -10 and +10 for my x's, I'm just going to use a 9. I know that 9 falls to the right is an upper bound. So the lowest point between 0 and 9 for me is this vertex, which it tells us is 4, 3. Okay, so once you identify what your vertex is, that HK value, you can couple that with the known A value. Okay, so that would be the next step, is to identify your A value. And that can be done just in the standard form that it's given, right? What is our A value here? The A is the leading coefficient, which is 1. And once you have that, that's all the information you need for your vertex form, right? Because your vertex form is y equals a times the quantity x minus h squared plus k. So all that's left is to plug in to that vertex form. We get y is equal to, our a value was a 1. I'm going to write it here, but when you write your answer, you won't want to include it. X minus the x coordinate of your vertex h, which is 4 squared, plus the y coordinate of your vertex k, which is 3, and then just simplify your answer completely. Okay, and you get your solution. So now we were able to write it in vertex form without having to go through the steps of completing the square. Eric.
What do you mean identify A?
Identify A. It's just, remember, in standard form. So here's A. A in vertex form happens to be the same as A, bless you, in standard form, and it happens to be the same as A in the intercept form. So A for all of those is simply going to be your leading coefficient. Okay, I'll write that here. Okay, so that's your A is your leading coefficient. All right, so let's see what happens then when we're dealing with a leading coefficient of something other than 1. So if we go to our y editor, enter our equation directly in. So we get 2x squared plus 24x plus 25. Enter that, go to view it in our graph. What you're going to see is it doesn't quite fit. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom fit this so I can see exactly where it's located. So I scroll up to zoom fit. You want to be able to identify where the vertex is. So here I can see the vertex is right about here. So I can now find this vertex, hit F5, it's still a minimum, so 3. My lower bound, this time I'm going to scroll. Okay, as I scroll my cursor through here, I have to make sure my cursor, which is now located here, is above this point that I anticipate to be my vertex. So right here, and again, and you can tell by the y's. So as I move to the left, are my y's getting taller and taller? Higher and higher, -32 to -29, yeah, they're increasing. So that's above my lowest point. I can hit enter for my lower bound. For my upper bound, again, go to the right and above it. So again, as the numbers start to get higher and higher, you're good. And so the lowest point between those two intervals that I set is -6 and -47. So that's my vertex. What is my A value based on the standard form of this equation? My leading coefficient, which is 2. And so now I can simply plug in my vertex form. Y is equal to A times the quantity x minus h, which is a -6, quantity squared plus a -47k. And so this would be my equation. All right, try that last one on your own, please. Just make sure that you're capable and comfortable working with that. And I'll go through it here in just a moment. So if you remember by hand, if you were doing this by hand, the process would look like this. You would take your equation, factor out a 2 from the x terms, leave your constant outside of that grouping symbol, and then you'd complete the square. So half of 12 is 6. 6 squared is 36. You're going to add 36 inside, but you didn't really add 36. You added 36 times this leading coefficient, 2. So you really added 72. So you have to balance the equation and undo that. So you have to subtract the 72 on the outside, which you could then rewrite in your binomial square form. X plus half of this b value, so 6, quantity squared, combine these terms. You'd still get the same thing. So let's take a look at this last case. Go to our y editor. If you just enter your equation directly in, so -3x squared plus 12x minus 1. Go to view that graph. Once you're in the viewing window, you can see where your vertex is located. I'm going to change my window settings to what it would most likely be here. Minimums of -10, or maximums of +10. All right, so here's kind of just the default setting. So here's my maximum point. So I know at F5, my vertex is a maximum. Lower bound, where my cursor is, the crosshair is to the left and below, so that's good. My upper bound is anywhere to the right and below, so I'm just going to pick a point at 9. At 9, it's way over here, way down below, so it's good. And the highest point between 0 and 9 is the point 211. That's my vertex. My A value, I can see my leading coefficient, -3. And so now it's just a matter of writing my equation. So y is equal to -3 times the quantity x minus my x coordinate of my vertex, 2, squared, plus my y coordinate of the vertex, 11.